everyone. Welcome to Mastering Anger, a workshop on anger management. Let me start by introducing myself. My name is Arunima Bhutani, and I'm a psychologist here at MindTribe. I have completed my master's degree in clinical psychology and have over 1,000 hours of experience working with clients. I have worked with individuals struggling with various mental health concerns, including depression, anxiety, stress, anger issues, relationship issues, procrastination, etc. I take an eclectic approach to therapy, tailoring the sessions to fit my clients' specific needs by borrowing techniques from evidence based approaches such as cognitive behavioral therapy, acceptance and commitment therapy, and dialectical behavioral therapy. I believe every individual deserves to have a safe, non judgmental space to process their thoughts and emotions, and I strive to provide this space to my clients. This workshop today aims to help you to develop a deeper understanding of anger, its underlying emotions, triggers, warning signs, and equip you with effective practical techniques to manage it constructively. By recognizing the cycle of anger and learning strategies to channel it positively, you can enhance your emotional well being and strengthen your relationships. I feel privileged to guide you through this journey of self awareness and growth today. Thank you for joining us. I'm excited to have you here and look forward to an engaging and interactive session. We also have Sharon and Harsh here as co hosts today. You all must have seen the polls and messages they have been sharing with you in the WhatsApp group. Sharon and Harsh, would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Harsh Deshmukh. I'm also a psychologist at MindTribe. Um, I've worked with clients with relationship issues, workplace issues, depression, anxiety, and yeah, welcome to the workshop. And if you have any doubts about MindTribe, please put them in the chat, and I'll be happy to help.
Thank you, Harsh. Over to you, Sharon.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Sharon Mali. I'm also a psychologist at MindTribe. So, I work with clients with anxiety, depression, relationship issues, self esteem issues, and anything as such. And welcome today to our workshop being hosted by Arunima. And you have any doubts or anything, you can always leave it in the chat box. Like Harsh said, we are here to help you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harsh and Sharon. All right, before we begin, we have some rules that need to be followed today. Keep your cameras and mics off, unmute only when asked, or raise your hand when you wish to speak. Maintain the decorum and be respectful of others in the workshop. This workshop is a copyright of MindTribe, so recordings and screenshots are not allowed. I would also like to let you all know that this workshop is currently being recorded. Only the presentation and the audio is being recorded. The chat box, your names, and your display pictures will not be in the recording. However, your voice will be heard. So if you're not comfortable with your voice being recorded, feel free to use the chat box to respond or to ask any questions that you may have. Here is an overview of what we'll be covering today. In today's workshop, we will understand the meaning of anger and how to recognize its underlying emotions. We will learn how to identify triggers and warning signs of anger, diving into the cycle anger follows. Then we will look at some practical anger management techniques. Let's start with a quick question just to warm up. What is something small that always irritates you? For example, it could be someone chewing loudly or getting stuck in traffic. Take a moment to think about it, and if you'd like to share, raise your hand or you can type it in the chat box. For me, I know personally I get irritated when I get stuck in traffic. Sudden loud noises, that's definitely something that can be irritating, I understand. People only connecting when they need something, that can be irritating and hurtful. People raising their voice. These are some wonderful responses, guys. Thank you so much. Anybody else who would like to share what irritates them? Anything small? People not understanding your choices. That's also something that can be irritating. People delaying to responses. When I say something to someone, if they do opposite of what I say, right, I see how that can be annoying. Anybody else who would like to share with the group something small that irritates them? You can raise your hand if you would like to speak. Okay, saying the same thing for 100 times can be annoying when the same message has been repeated. People use their silence to irritate me. I see how that can be annoying as well. Thank you so much for such wonderful responses, everybody. All right. Now, please grab a paper and pen. I hope you remember to, bring a paper and pen to the workshop. If you've not brought one, you can quickly go and grab one, or you can use the Notes app on your phone or anything to write this down. Just think about a recent situation where you felt angry and note it down on the paper. What happened? We're not here to judge. This is just to reflect on our experiences with anger. Feel free to, again, share in the chat box if you're comfortable, or you can unmute and share with the group. Anybody who would like to share a recent experience when they felt angry? Thank you for the emojis, Ananya. Would you like to share with the group a recent experience where you felt angry? Yes, Ananya, go ahead.
Um, so recently, first of all, good afternoon, everyone. Myself, Ananya, and the most recent that I can look for is like I needed something, uh, as in some, not as in like secondary or tertiary needs, as some things of primary needs, and I asked the person because he was the one who can like bring me those things or anything. And not just they didn't bring that, they ignored the entire fact that I even asked them. And it was like not the first time that I have asked them. It was like I was on repeat that I need this thing, this is my necessity, and I was not provided that. So that made me kind of frustrated and unheard and unseen.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Ananya. I can imagine how that can be difficult when your requests for something, that are your basic needs are not answered and ignored. Thank you for sharing that with us. Would anybody else like to share with us today any recent situation where they felt angry? Yes, Chaitanya, go ahead.
Hi, all. Good afternoon. So this incident happened day before. So I work in a corporate, and we were discussing about some of the people's performance management. And with my manager, we agreed for something to rate somebody something. But when we actually got into the for a larger discussion, and the entire thing got changed, and my manager was sidelining with the others, and I felt really helpless. And the whole conversation or the trust that I built on my manager gone in a minute, and it kind of built up the anger on me. And so many people were sidelined on one particular instance on that employee. It kind of triggered a lot of anger in me.
Thank you for sharing that, Chaitanya. I understand when your trust is broken, it can feel like a betrayal, and that can trigger the emotion of anger. Thank you for sharing that with us, Ananya and Chaitanya, today. Would anyone else like to share on the chat box or, unmute themselves and share with the group? That's all right. Even if you're not comfortable sharing with the group, my request is to note down on that piece of paper a recent situation where you felt angry. This would come in handy later on in the workshop as well. Okay, so let's start by defining anger. Anger is an emotion characterized by antagonism towards someone or something you feel has deliberately done you wrong. It is an emotional response to perceived threats, injustice, or frustrations. Anger can be a good thing. It can be a natural and even helpful emotion when expressed constructively. It can give you a way to express negative feelings, for example, or motivate you to find solutions to problems. However, excessive anger can cause problems. When Unmanaged anger can harm relationships, health, and even overall well being. Anger is an emotion that tends to be easy to see. Let's take a look at the image on the screen. This is the anger iceberg. The anger iceberg represents the idea that although anger is displayed outwardly, other emotions may be hidden beneath the surface. What you see on the surface is anger, but beneath that are the underlying emotions that are driving it. These other feelings, such as sadness, fear, or guilt, might cause a person to feel vulnerable, or they may not have the skills to manage them effectively. This is also why anger is often a secondary emotion. Sometimes, however, anger is just anger. By exploring what's beneath the surface, though, you can gain insight into your anger and how to manage it. For example, if you realize that your anger is fueled by jealousy, suppose, you may benefit from building your communication skills. In contrast, if you realize your anger is caused by stress, you might benefit from developing self care habits. This is a small part of the wheel of emotions, a great tool for identifying those underlying emotions. Use this to pinpoint what you're truly feeling beneath the anger. For instance, if you're angry because someone ignored you, the underlying feeling might be rejection or hurt. So, these are just a couple tools that you can use to try and figure out what is fueling your anger. All right, now let's take a closer look at what might be triggering our anger. Triggers are external or internal events that provoke an emotional reaction. Recognizing these triggers is the first step in managing anger effectively. Some common triggers could include grief or sadness. Losing someone or something important to us can cause emotional pain, which might manifest as anger. Hunger, believe it or not, being hungry can make us more irritable and less patient. This is often even referred to as being hangry in popular media. Tiredness, when we're exhausted, our ability to regulate our emotions diminishes, making us more prone to anger. Rudeness, encountering impolite or disrespectful behavior, can spark feelings of frustration or resentment. Disappointment, when our expectations aren't met, we may feel let down, which can quickly escalate to anger. Misunderstandings or shouting or yelling, miscommunication can lead to frustration, especially if the situation involves raised voices, which can feel confrontational. Stress, high levels of stress, whether from work, family, or personal challenges, can make us more sensitive to potential triggers. Fatigue, both physical and mental fatigue, leave us with little emotional energy to handle challenging situations. And delays, when things don't go as planned or we're kept waiting, we might feel impatient and irritated. Does any of this sound familiar to you all? You can give a thumbs up if you think this is relatable. Okay, I see a lot of thumbs up here. Thank you everyone for responding. See, these triggers can vary from person to person, but understanding what sets you off is essential to managing anger. Now, returning to the situation that you've noted down on that piece of paper, what triggered the anger outburst you reflected on earlier? Understanding these triggers will be the first step towards managing anger. So feel free to share your thoughts. You can raise your hand or you can share with us on the chat box, whatever you feel comfortable with. What was the trigger to your anger? Yes, Saurabh, go ahead.
Ma'am, actually, my trigger is expectation from others. Is it like ma'am, if you're calling someone and he comes to us very delayed, so that can cause us anger and we can shout sometimes.
So when your expectations are not met, they can lead to anger because sometimes that can cause us to feel disappointment. Am I understanding that correctly, Saurabh?
Yeah, ma'am. Suppose if we have to go attend some function, and if you're calling some family member, and if he or she's getting very delayed, so ma'am, definitely the anger comes in.
Absolutely, I can understand that. Thank you for sharing with us, Saurabh. Yes, Ananya, go ahead.
For me, ma'am, triggers could range from small things like the person that I'm sharing to, that why I'm angry, and the person is not understanding it. That could be like justified because not always it happens that people understand us or we understand them, but like it can range from that to the extent where like the person is totally denying the fact that yes, there is a reason why I am angry, like denying the whole fact, denying that something he or she did, that's why I am angry, or and posing everything on me that you're overreacting, there's nothing as such to be angry about. Like that really uh, fires up the anger a lot, even though I'm trying to calm myself down.
Right, misunderstandings can definitely lead to a lot of frustration sometimes, Ananya, which can be one of those underlying emotions with anger. Thank you for sharing that with us. We have a few responses on the chat box as well. Feeling that I couldn't go back and change the past, hence feeling helpless in the present. Shoutings and disappointments, feeling that why have I always given the people chance to do the same thing again and again. I can understand how all of these can lead to anger. Thank you for sharing with us today, everyone. You are all being so wonderful and interactive. Okay, so now the next part of the workshop talks about warning signs of anger. Anger shows up in various ways, physically, behaviorally, cognitively, and emotionally. Let's look at some of these warning signs. As we move forward, first let's start by discussing the physical warning signs of anger. Our bodies often signal when we're becoming angry, even before we're fully aware of of the emotion. Recognizing these physical signs can help us pause and regain control before our anger escalates. Some common physical warning signs include breathlessness. You may find yourself breathing rapidly or struggling to catch your breath. Increased heart rate. The heartbeat might speed up as your body is preparing for action. Perspiration, sweating, even in a cool environment, can be a sign that anger is building. Tight muscles. Anger often causes tension in the body, such as in the shoulders, jaw, or the back. Clenched fists. Without even realizing it, you might ball up your hands into fists. Feeling hot or turning red. A flushed face or a sudden wave of heat can accompany anger as well. Eyes getting bigger. The eyes might widen and your expression may become more intense. Headaches, stress from anger can trigger headaches or a heavy feeling in your head. And then a churning stomach or nausea is another common physical response, such as feeling sick to the stomach. We have a couple responses here. Attachments and failures, understandable how that can also lead to anger. I say something to do but when time comes to do, they say not to do at the last minute, it can create anger. I can understand that as well. All right, guys, take a moment to think. Have you ever noticed any of these physical sensations in yourself when you felt angry? Recognizing these signs early can help you take steps to calm down before you react. I see a lot of thumbs up, a couple thumbs down. So it seems like most of these physical signs are relatable for everyone who's felt anger before. Okay. So anger doesn't just stay inside, right? It often. Yes, Ananya, go ahead.
Ma'am, can shivering be also a part of physical sign?
Yes, so shaking with anger can also be a physical sign. Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Devansh?
Am I audible?
Yes, Devansh, you're audible.
Uh, I also wanted to ask that sometimes, I mean, when I'm angry, so my vision gets a bit glitchy. Is that also, I mean, can create warning sign?
That can happen. It's definitely something that can be a part of anger as well.
Yeah. Because 1.5 years ago, I almost, I mean, I would say for temporary purpose, I almost lost my vision for a particular 2 3 months. But now I'm better now. But it was that
All
time only
right.
when all the things were very hectic and things were not in my favor. So I was getting grumpy at all the time, and then it suddenly, especially the left eye, it happened in my left eye actually.
All right. So that could be related to another reason, not specifically temporary anger. I would recommend getting in touch with a doctor. What I meant with any issues with the eyesight is for some people it can get a little blurry sometimes. But I would recommend checking in with a doctor if you had a more long-term issue with your eyesight. Yes, Saurabh?
Ma'am, actually, I want to know the meaning of clench fist. What does that mean?
When we ball up our hands, we turn our fingers inside to our palms, press our nails into our palms, and ball them up really tight. That could be a clenched fist.
Ma'am, sorry, can you just repeat? I cannot understand it.
See, when you turn your hands into a ball, when you put your nails to your palms, the inside of your palms, and press really tightly, similarly to what you might do to punch somebody, that would be a clenched fist. All right, I hope that answers your question. Okay, moving
गुस्से
forward
से जब
to
मुट्ठी बंद करते हैं गुस्से से उसको बोलते हैं क्लेंच फिस्ट.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. All right. So, as I was saying, anger doesn't always just stay inside, it also shows up in our actions. So, the behavioral warning signs can be key indicators that our emotions are now starting to get the better of us, so to say. So, here are some examples of how our anger can influence behavior. Pacing, such as feeling restless and unable to stay still, fidgeting, repeated movements like tapping your fingers or shaking your leg, raised voice, speaking loudly or shouting, arguing, just engaging in heated debates or disagreements with people, slamming doors, using physical actions to express frustration, insulting people, saying hurtful things to others in the heat of the moment, getting aggressive. This could be physical aggression, even if it's minor, like throwing something, taunting people or passing comments, making sarcastic or cutting remarks, right? Going quiet, on the other hand, which is retreating into silence, which can also be a sign of anger, and isolating oneself, withdrawing from others to avoid conflict because of frustrations sometimes. Yes, Saurabh?
Ma'am, can you just explain what is fidgeting?
Okay, fidgeting is when we're unable to sit still, just a small part of our body keeps shaking or moving. So, suppose you tap your finger on the table constantly, or you shake your leg, or you keep playing with something, such as if you have your phone, you keep flipping it around. You're not able to be completely still. Some or the other body part is constantly moving or shaking. That could be fidgeting.
So,
All
ma'am,
right.
these are the signs of fear or anger.
We're talking about signs of physical signs of anger sometimes. Now, of course, some behaviors can be attributed to multiple emotions, but we're currently talking about the behavioral signs of anger. Sometimes when we get angry, we can get fidgety as well.
क्योंकि मैं sorry ma'am, because shaking legs is the sign of fear, I think so.
It can be a sign of multiple emotions, fear, anxiety, anger. Currently, we're saying that it can also be a sign of anger. All right? Okay. So, behavioral signs also impact our relationships. So, I would like you all to just take a moment to reflect. Have you noticed any of these actions in yourselves when you're feeling angry? How do they affect the people around you? Of course, being aware of our behavior is the first step toward changing these patterns. So, you can give a thumbs up if any of this is relatable. Great. Thank you so much for all the thumbs up, guys. If anyone wants to share, please feel free to do so in the chat box. All right. So, next is the cognitive warning signs, which can indicate that we're approaching an emotional tipping point. This means that anger can also affect how we think. So, some common thought patterns linked to anger are difficulty focusing on one thing, such as your mind might feel scattered, making it hard to concentrate on one thing, right? And expecting the worst possible outcome. Thoughts like this will never work or everything is ruined might be dominating your mind. Thinking in black and white terms, So, viewing situations in extremes such as always or never, for example, if you're angry at somebody else, you might be thinking they always do this, they never call me back. And blaming others, feeling like someone else is entirely at fault for what's happening in this situation. These thought patterns can escalate anger if left unchecked. So, again, take a moment to reflect. Have you ever experienced any of these mental warning signs when you're upset? They can be crucial to interrupting the cycle of anger. All right, I see a couple thumbs up here. Would anybody like to share with the group? All right, lots of thumbs up here. Thank you so much, guys, for responding. Sorry. Lastly, let's discuss the emotional side of anger. Emotions often work together, and anger rarely exists in isolation, as we've also talked about the underlying emotions. Here are some emotional warning signs that anger might be brewing. First is irritability, feeling easily annoyed or on edge, then impatience, struggling to wait or feeling frustrated with delays, frustrations when things don't go as planned or expected, guilt, feeling bad about something but expressing it as anger, sadness, anger often masks underlying feelings of sadness or loss sometimes. Jealousy, envy can spark feelings of resentment or anger as well. Resentment, such as holding on to grudges, can fuel anger over time. Then fear. Anger can sometimes be a response to feeling threatened. Humiliation, feeling embarrassed or disrespected can trigger anger. Then feeling betrayed. Trust issues often lead to emotional turmoil, which can represent as anger. And overwhelming emotions in general. When emotions build up and anger becomes the easiest way to express them. Again, take a moment to reflect. Can you recognize any of these emotions in yourself when you're angry? Yes, Saurabh, go ahead.
Ma'am, my doubt is ma'am, how fear and anger are connected, because my personal experience is that when we are experiencing fear, we cannot express anger. So how does those these two emotions are connected?
Sometimes feeling threatened can have different responses in people. Fear can lead to anger in different people. I understand, that everyone is an individual who's different to others. So for some people, feeling threatened can lead to a response in anger. They might deal with that fear with anger. They can exist simultaneously. All right, Saurabh, I hope that answers your question. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
All right, so coming back to the situation that you identified earlier and noted down on that piece of paper, what were the warning signs of your anger? Physical, behavioral, cognitive, or emotional? Would anybody like to share with the group? Yes, Ananya, go ahead.
For me, ma'am, physical signs include I get really like my body really shivers. I get really shaky, and yes, the clenching of fists sometimes happen. Even a clenched mouth also sometimes can also be a part of physical symptoms. But mostly I shiver like when I'm really angry. My whole body is shivering, and emotionally, that's not fair. Like I almost end up crying at the last whenever I'm angry. So it could be a part of resentment due to some past experiences, bad experiences, or anything related to that that can lead to the resentment or the fear of things happening all over again, maybe. And behavioral includes like slamming doors and um, sometimes even when it's very exaggerated form of anger, I had an urge to throw things like to crash something, so it can also be a part of that.
Absolutely. And I must say, you've done a great job at identifying all your different warning signs, Ananya. Thank you for sharing with the group. We have a couple responses in the chat box. Can it be a mix? Yes, absolutely. You can have multiple different warning signs and multiple different types of warning signs as well. So it can absolutely be a mix, and it usually is. Then we have another response: emotional resentment, fear, and guilt, cognitive blaming others, physical nausea. Okay, that's a that's a very good job at recognizing different warning signs there as well. Saurabh says mostly behavioral. I would ask you to take a minute to reflect, Saurabh, what might come before that behavior. We'll get to the cycle of anger as well. Self-harming. That can also be a dangerous warning sign of anger. All right, thank you everybody for your responses. We have another one here. Mixed of all signs, ma'am. Absolutely. It usually is all four types of warning signs. So fear and guilt, blaming others, throwing things, yes, those can all come in together. Negative overthinking, yes, that can, having very extreme negative thoughts can be a warning sign of upcoming anger. Yes, Chaitanya, go ahead.
For me, it triggers from the helplessness, or and from a physical. I would say my face gets red, and my tonality changes, and I it also triggers headache for me. Apart from that, I also, when I'm anger, I make curt remarks to people, like which will be very sharp tongued at that time. Um, Again, slamming doors, for example, and I'll try to isolate so that I don't, aggravate it more. Those are some things which I have recognized myself when I'm not in a very good spaces.
All right. Again, great job at recognizing different types of warning signs there, Chaitanya. Thank you for sharing with the group. We have another response. Shwetal says, don't talk to anyone. Yes, uh, going silent or self-isolation is another warning sign of anger. All right, guys. So here we have, just like those moments on YouTube when a quick ad pops up, we have a short ad break for you. Don't worry, it will be quick and super beneficial for you, so stay tuned. All right, let's dive in. So, what exactly is one-on-one counseling? It's a personalized, confidential chat between you and a trained therapist. Imagine having someone who really listens, understands you, and helps you figure things out. The benefits would be personal growth, solving problems, setting goals, and boosting your mental well-being. It's like having a personal coach for your mind. Now, let's bust a big myth. Many people think that counseling is only for those who are unwell. Nope, that's not true. Counseling is for anyone wanting to be their best self, want better relationships, more friends, a spot in your dream college or job. Counseling can help with all of that. It's about making the best version of you. So, why Mind Tribe? First off, our counselors are super talented, plus, we're affordable with sessions ranging from rupees 500 to 5,000. And guess what? Your first session is absolutely free. Once you're comfortable, you can choose from our affordable packages, empowering minds, transforming lives. That's what we do at MindTribe. And before we jump back into our main presentation, do you have any urgent questions about counseling? Now's your chance to ask. We're here to help. Got a question? You can shoot. Or you can put them down in the chat box and they can be addressed as well. All right. If no questions for now, we can move on. Okay, now let's do a quick activity to reflect on the impact of your anger. What effect did it have on the situation, your relationships, or your own emotions? Who else may have been impacted by your anger? How could they have been left feeling? If you're comfortable, you can share your responses with the group by unmuting or putting it in the chat box. You can write this down on your piece of paper as well. Anyone who would like to share the impact of their angry outbursts? Anybody? Any? Okay, you can take a minute to reflect and think about it. Hmm. Prachi has a question. Why do people judge if we go to a psychiatrist? Unfortunately, Prachi, we live in a society that was not very open to mental health issues being as common as physical health issues. Now, thankfully, the times are changing and people are becoming more understanding as awareness is building. That is also one of the things that Mind Tribe is working towards, as if you might have seen our social media, that we're working towards building awareness about mental health issues so that people don't judge others for mental health concerns. I hope that answers your question, Prachi. Would anybody here like to share how what the impact of their anger is? Saurabh has another question. Are you sure awareness is increasing? Yes, absolutely. Slowly and steadily, we have noticed this change in society and in with the people who are coming to Mind Tribe. Having been in the mental health field for many years, that change has been visible. Of course, there is still a long way to go, but slowly and steadily, there the awareness is definitely increasing. Yes, I agree. In India, it is a big problem, but like I said, there are multiple organizations, including Mind Tribe, who are working towards building that awareness. Right? Because this change is not something that can happen overnight, but you and I together, we can work towards normalizing mental health concerns and seeking help when necessary. Just the way we go to the doctor for a physical ailment and for fever, we can also visit a psychologist or a therapist or a psychiatrist for, our mental health concerns. All right. Yes, Saurabh, would you like to share the impact of your angry
The,
outbursts?
no, ma'am. Actually, I just want to know that what is the difference between psychiatrist and psychologist? Can you just clear it?
Sure. So a psychiatrist is somebody who's first done an MBBS and they can, prescribe you medications. A psychologist is somebody who's trained in, who has done their studies in psychology and can do therapy and counseling. So that's the major difference. A psychiatrist can prescribe medications. A psychologist will not be prescribing medications, but they will be doing therapy. Yes, Saurabh, go ahead.
Ma'am, that's okay, ma'am. But many spiritual persons they think that medicine doesn't work on the root level. They only work on the outer level, and so it's not worthy, and that doesn't treat you on the long run. So is it okay or no? No, ma'am.
I think that is a much longer discussion to have, Saurabh, because religious and spiritual, you know, opinions and ideas are very, very personal to people. So I don't think I would be commenting on those here today. But like I said, this is a very long and different topic. So I think it's best if we don't deviate from the topic of our workshop today. And let's come back to talking about anger and how we can manage it. Uh, all right. So would anybody here like to share the impact of their angry outbursts with the group today? Someone says, I close myself off from people and push away loved ones for long periods of time. So, self-isolation, that can be a challenge, and you feel very exhausted after being angry. Right, I can understand how that can be difficult. Yes, Ananya, go ahead. What would be the impact of your anger?
Ma'am, mostly it's the negative part only. Like on the basic levels, like on the day that I get angry, that my day is completely, like, I won't say ruined, but it's not as well spent as if I have been able to come like manage my anger. Because the whole day is consumed by being angry or getting over it, or the guilt that follows after the certain things that we have said when we were angry, we have done when we were angry, the certain ways that we behaved, or like the ways that in which we did hurt our loved ones. And on a major level, like if the anger continues or exaggerate, it mainly leads me isolating myself, because it makes me feel like I am impacting negatively the people around me. So I basically isolate myself, no social media, no interactions, even though my friends are calling me, even though I am not angry with them. There is another situation that made me angry, but still I completely avoid any interaction with anyone around just for the fact that I will mess it even more, or my anger will basically mess it even more.
All right, thank you for sharing that, Ananya. I can see that you recognize that an angry outburst can not only impact yourself, but it can also impact others around you. And that recognition itself can then have, further consequences. So understanding the impact of our anger can be very helpful in making us understand how we might want to respond to that same situation. Yes, Devansh, go ahead.
Uh, my parents get impacted because I shout on them, I yell at them. They also make me angry on any topic, but the impact, I mean, they get impacted by my shouting and yelling. Then I start breaking things, I slam doors, but then I realize that basically I'm making losses in my home only. So whenever I get angry, I start you know st- I don't know, in that heat of the moment I just start doing self harming
So,
whenever I'm angry.
all right, that can be concerning. I see that, Devansh. So, you're saying that your anger impacts your parents because you have an aggressive, angry outburst. And usually, once that realization sets in, you also engage in self-harming behaviors. I would recommend getting in touch with a professional to deal with those. But I would say you're doing a good job at understanding where your anger could be coming from and how it could be impacting others and yourself. I would recommend getting in touch with a professional to deal with, the self-harming tendencies there.
And lot
Thank you for
of
sharing. Yeah, go
okay,
ahead.
I wanted to add one more thing is that many of the times I also get societal thoughts.
Hmm. All right, that can be concerning, Devansh. I understand that it can be difficult to deal with. So, like I said, I recommend getting in touch with a professional. This could be at MindTribe if you would like. And there are lots of psychologists and counselors here who can help. But I would recommend getting in touch with a professional if you would like to, manage the self-harm thoughts and actions there. Right, and thank you for sharing this with the group. I can imagine it could have been difficult. So thank you for sharing with the group.
Okay.
All right, would anybody else here like to share their experiences or the impact of their anger? Yes, Saurabh.
Ma'am, actually, according to me, the situation can become more worse even if when your close family members or friends are unable to understand you. So, and means the hurt, the emotional hurt you're going through, or any other trauma. So, when they are unable to understand this, the situation becomes more worse, and so does the relationships. So, ma'am,
Yes,
you need some people who can understand you, what you're going through, and your emotions.
right. I understand. Feeling misunderstood in any situation, especially when we're going through something difficult, can definitely worsen the situation and worsen the feelings of or behavior involved with anger. The question would also be, how do you think those other people are left affected by our angry outburst in that situation? All right, okay. So, and yes, Saurabh, I understand and I agree that having a social support network who understands you can be helpful in dealing with the situations differently. All right. Do we have a few more messages here in the chat box here. When some of your close members try to make you feel low in front of everybody, and you were impacted, understandable. Mm, All right. Okay, so moving on, let's see. Anger often follows a predictable cycle. There is, a trigger. There are thoughts about the trigger. There is an emotional response, physical reactions, and behaviors. Understanding this cycle helps us intervene before it spirals out of control. Uh, Okay, so now let's dive into this important concept called the cycle of anger. It follows this predictable sequence of events. Recognizing this cycle can help us identify where we can intervene before anger escalates out of control. Let's break down these 5 stages of the cycle. The first stage is the triggering event. Something happens that sparks our anger. Triggers can be external, like someone cutting us off in traffic, or internal, like a frustrating thought or unmet expectations. For example, imagine you worked hard on a project and someone gives you a harsh, unsolicited criticism. That criticism becomes the trigger for your anger. After a trigger, our thoughts come into play. These are the stories we tell ourselves about the event. Often they are negative, exaggerated, or unhelpful. For instance, after receiving criticism, you might think, they don't respect me, or I'm never good enough. These thoughts fuel your anger and make it stronger. Now, here's an important point: thoughts can either amplify or diffuse our anger. By challenging these negative thoughts, we can start to shift our emotional response. Next, we experience the emotional responses. Anger rarely exists alone, like I've said before. It is often accompanied by other emotions like frustration, sadness, or fear. So, in our example, hearing criticism might make you feel embarrassed or disrespected, which then escalates to anger. And as emotions intensify, our bodies react with physical symptoms. These can include a racing heart, tension in your muscles, feeling hot or flushed. We've already discussed the physical warning signs of anger. And then your body essentially prepares for fight or flight. These symptoms, like I said, are like warning signs on a dashboard. If we notice them early, we can take steps to calm ourselves down before we react to the situation. And the final stage of the cycle is the behavioral response. This is how we express our anger outwardly. For example, you might lash out at the person who criticized you, raise your voice, or slam a door. Unfortunately, these actions can worsen the situation, damage relationships, and lead to regret. Breaking this cycle is something that can be very important here. And the good news is that understanding this cycle is what empowers us to break it. If we recognize our triggers, thoughts, and physical symptoms early, we have the chance to respond to the situation in a healthier way. By understanding the cycle of anger, we can build strategies to interrupt it at different points, preventing it from escalating and causing harm. So let's understand this with a case study. Here we have Rahul's story. Rahul is a software engineer who prides himself on being punctual. One morning, he wakes up late because his alarm didn't go off. Feeling rushed, he hurriedly gets ready for work. As he reaches the kitchen, he finds that his younger brother has left the milk carton empty in the fridge, meaning Rahul can't have his usual coffee. Now, frustrated, Rahul drives to work only to get stuck in heavy traffic. At this point, he's fuming. When he finally reaches the office, his colleague greets him with a light joke about being late. Rahul snaps, raising his voice and blaming the colleague for meddling in his business. Can people here identify how the cycle of anger has worked? All right, we have a few thumbs up. Thank you, everybody. Let's break it down. So, what was the trigger here? Rahul's alarm didn't go off, causing him to wake up late. What were the thoughts? I'll never make it on time. This day is ruined. Right? Then comes the emotional response, which was frustration, anxiety, helplessness. Then we have the physical reaction: increased heart rate, clenched jaw, tight shoulders. Then comes the behavioral response, which is lashing out at his colleague. And finally, the consequences. Rahul damages his relationship with his colleague, feels embarrassed, and adds more stress to his day. Now, this damaged relationship or this anger outburst can go on to become another trigger, and then the cycle can continue if we don't interrupt it. So, in the next section, let's explore techniques to manage anger effectively. How do you all cope with your anger? What are some coping techniques or mechanisms that you use? How do you make yourself calm down when you're feeling angry? Would anybody like to share with us? You can put it on the chat box or raise your hand to speak. Deep breathing, says Chaitanya. Absolutely. Yes, Ananya, go ahead.
Basically, ma'am, my hobbies, and I have pets, so I try spending some time with them, with myself, like self-reflecting, like going on a walk or just putting my headphones on, listening to music. And if I want to think about the things that made me angry, the reasons, the triggers behind it, I do it. If I completely want to ignore it, I just do something that shifts my focus from that particular thing, be it like engaging on hobbies, focusing on my breath, or having a small walk outside, or just going for a fun day out to calm myself down and to release that stress that the anger is causing.
All right, those are some very good techniques that you're using there, Ananya. Thank you for letting us all know what helps you with coping with your anger. Yes, Saurabh, go ahead.
Ma'am, my frequent response is that I want to leave the place that's causing me anger or feeling low. So I leave the place and then sit with my thoughts for some time.
All right, so you step away from the situation. That is also a very effective technique. Yes, Devansh, go ahead.
Cope with my anger by going out. I mean, going out for walk in the nature with my dog, or going for a
Hmm.
long drive. Going to go and sit alone in a cafe and observing the surroundings and people.
All right. Also, some wonderful techniques to, you know, cope with our anger. Thank you for sharing with us, Devansh. We also have a few responses on the chat box. Letting it out in not a good way, like yelling. Going for a walk in nature. I distract and escape generally. Escaping the situation, listening to music or deep breathing. Help to calm down by sleeping, drinking water, and watching a comfort movie or TV show. That's also understandable. Long walking with music, going to sleep. What to do if we don't feel like doing anything when we are angry? Just stepping away from the situation and not doing anything else, but just feeling the emotion and sitting with yourself can also be helpful. Crying yourself to sleep. I move out immediately and avoid any further conflicts with others and try to figure out why I was angry. Yes, stepping away from the situation. Start thinking about the situation in other perspectives and start to move away from that place and calm myself. Also, very helpful. Watching some drama. All right. Yes, Saurabh, would you like to say something?
Ma'am, actually, practically speaking, all these options are very good. Ma'am, but are these practically possible? Actually, my personal experience is that when I get angry, my mind becomes because mind obviously becomes uncontrollable, and you just are uh, means occupied with some negative thoughts and so overthinking thoughts also. So, ma'am, does these options work like listening to music and deep breathing? Are these practically possible? Actually, I'm just asking.
Yes, absolutely, they are possible. And that is why we've been talking about the warning signs and the cycle of anger, right? So, if we understand sooner than later that we are about to get angry, that our anger is building or brewing, if we start to recognize those warning signs early, or if we try to catch ourselves earlier on in that cycle of anger, it will be easier to employ any coping techniques and calm ourselves down without harming the situation, right? So, understanding what triggers you and what might your body be telling you or what your thoughts are in that moment will be helpful. So, just taking that minute to reflect can be helpful. We will be talking a little more about how you can respond to anger, but the essential is to catch those warning signs early. So, which is why we've been, doing this technique of you noting one particular situation down on paper so that by the end of this workshop, you have your complete cycle in front of you about how anger reflects for you. And then you can catch those warning signs earlier on. It is possible, but it might take some effort. We have a couple more responses. Watching a comedy show, that is an interesting one as well. In the heat of anger, it is difficult to even think about these techniques. Like the senses are not focused on just being angry and letting it out. Right. So that is why it becomes necessary to start recognizing those warning signs early so that we don't reach the moment where we're talking about having an anger outburst. We want to recognize and catch it early, and if need be, step away from the situation and calm ourselves down. Okay. So now let's discuss some anger management techniques. First, we have two powerful yet simple techniques that are deep breathing. So deep breathing is a simple yet, but like I said, highly effective way to calm both your body and mind. When we're angry, our breathing often becomes shallow and rapid, which can escalate physical tension and emotional intensity. By consciously taking slow, deep breaths, you can slow down your heart rate, release muscle tension, regain focus and clarity, and these can all help in reducing your anger. Then we have grounding. Grounding is about redirecting your attention away from anger inducing thoughts and bringing your focus to the present moment. Now, when anger overwhelms you, grounding helps you anchor yourself in reality, making it easier to regulate your emotions. A simple exercise is 5 4 3 2 1 method, naming 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste, which means essentially engaging all your 5 senses of the body, bringing your attention to the sensations, shifting your focus, and creating a pause between your trigger and your reaction. Okay, next we have two more practical techniques. Oops, sorry. First of all, using diversions and then taking a time out. So, diversions are an excellent way to temporarily shift your focus away from the source of your anger. This pause can allow your mind to cool down and gain perspective before reacting. Many of you already employ this technique, as you all have mentioned today. Um, these could include listening to music, taking a short walk, watching a funny video, or engaging in a hobby you enjoy. The goal is to redirect your energy into something positive or neutral, allowing you to approach the situation more calmly later on. And sometimes the best way to manage anger is simply to step away from the situation. This is what we call a timeout. Physically removing yourself from an anger provoking environment can be very helpful. So, what it can do for you is it can prevent saying or doing something that you might regret later on. It can help you regain control of your emotions, returning to the situation with a clearer and calmer mindset at a later point. For example, you can tell someone, I need a moment to cool off, and we can talk about this later. Remember, stepping away you're not avoiding the issue. It is not avoidance. It's giving yourself the time to respond thoughtfully rather than with your instincts. And both diversions and timeouts are quick, effective ways to diffuse anger before it escalates. And it can help you handle situations with greater emotional control. Okay, did somebody raise their hand? Okay, moving on.
Just one small note that timeout is not about the escaping from the situation or the problem, right?
Yes, it's about stepping away just to calm yourself down so that you can come back to the situation later on when you are more thoughtful about the situation. You're not reacting instinctually, but you're responding thoughtfully. So stepping away to calm yourself down is not avoidance. It's a very standard way of controlling your anger when you feel like in the moment you will not be able to control the way you're reacting. Okay, I hope that answers your question. All right. Another practical strategy to manage anger, and I'll be honest, one of my favorite ones as well, is pause, reflect, and respond. When you feel anger rising, the first step is to pause. Take a moment to stop and step back mentally. This gives you a chance to interrupt that automatic reaction that often accompanies anger. And once you've paused, reflect on the situation. You can ask yourself different questions. What triggered my anger? What emotions am I feeling beneath this anger? How do I want to handle the situation? What outcome am I hoping for from this situation? Reflection allows you to gain that clarity and prevent any impulsive reactions. And finally, after pausing and reflecting, choose your response thoughtfully. This step is about responding, not reacting. Think about what outcome you want and communicate or act in a way that aligns with that goal. So, by practicing pause, reflect, and respond, you create a space to handle anger constructively, leading to better outcomes for both yourself and others. And lastly, we have visualization. In this technique, we use mental imagery to shift focus away from anger and promote relaxation. The first step is to find a quiet place. This could be anywhere, either your own room or anywhere else in the house that you find calming, or you can step away, go out to find some quiet, right? Then imagine your calm place, picturing every little detail. For example, suppose your calm place is a waterfall. So picture the color of the water, the sky, and what it looks like. Are there clouds in the sky? The plants around you, the sound of that water flowing, all the little details about your calm place. Then engage with the scene. Imagine yourself touching something in this picture, for example. In the waterfall example, you can say you can imagine yourself dipping your feet in the water, touching the grass next to that a pond where the waterfall is, collecting. Or if are there flowers around you, you can take a minute to smell those flowers. What's the fragrance like? Engaging with the scene. Then imagine yourself finally releasing your anger. Picture yourself releasing your anger, such as in this example, you can picture that all your anger is a piece of stone or a pebble, and you can throw it as hard as you want in the water, releasing and physically letting it go. And finally, once you feel like you've calmed down, you can return to your reality. Okay, now let's try a quick activity before we wrap up. This is called box breathing. What we'll be doing is we'll be inhaling for 4 counts, holding for 4 counts, exhaling for 4 counts, and then holding the breath for 4 counts again. We won't be taking the next breath immediately. How about we all do this together for a minute? I can give you the cues and we can all practice some box breathing before wrapping up. Okay, you can give a thumbs up when you're ready. Sit in a comfortable position. If you want, you can close your eyes or you can leave them lightly open. Just let yourself sit loose and comfortable, and we can begin. Okay. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Hold. Breathe out from the mouth. Hold. Breathe in through the nose. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. Breathe in. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. And relax. How are you all feeling in this moment? If you feel good, you can use an emoji to react or you can put it on the chat box. All right. Thank you for the emojis, everybody. All right. So before we wrap up, we have some quick information about MindTribe's counseling offerings. The motto here is to encapsulate our mission, empowering minds, transforming lives. We provide counseling services at a competitive rate of rupees 1,200 per 45-minute session. Additionally, we extend a generous 20% discount to students, ensuring accessibility to our support services. To further enhance affordability, we have devised various package options that cater to a range of needs and preferences. As a token of our appreciation for your participation, we are delighted to offer 3 individuals the opportunity of a complimentary consultation. These details will be communicated through the workshop's WhatsApp group in the coming days. Dr. Prerna Kohli, the esteemed founder of MindTribe, is a distinguished psychologist in India. Her remarkable achievements include being a 4-time gold medalist, a published author, and a recipient of the prestigious President of India Award. Under her visionary leadership, MindTribe provides a comprehensive range of services such as affordable counseling, free group therapy, rich mental health resources. You can email or WhatsApp us at the contact information on the screen here. At MindTribe, we are dedicated to nurturing mental health and well-being with a focus on accessibility and excellence. Okay, do we have any questions? Ananya says, thank you for the workshop. You're most welcome, Ananya. Thank you, everybody, for joining. If there are no questions, I would just say thank you, everyone, for joining. It has been a pleasure to guide you through this journey here today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If not, you can drop off. Thank you so much. You're most welcome, Sudhi.